Today on Pots and Trowels I'm going to be pruning a pleached hedge, and that's brought to you with the support of Cobra Garden and Allett. Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels. Well, today I'm up a ladder giving this pleached hedge just a bit of a trim and a tidy up, just to help train it really, because this is quite a young pleached hedge. And pleached hedges have been around for centuries. They were probably first grown in the grand gardens in Europe, in France and Italy in the 17th and 18th century, and you would have seen them in the grand gardens like the Palace of Versailles and other gardens throughout Europe. And they were there basically as an architectural feature, a living feature in the garden, but they would subdivide different areas and add height and structure to the garden. And that's exactly how we can use them today in our gardens. And a pleached hedge is essentially a hedge on stilts. That's all it is. This is hornbeam. They can be beech. I've seen them from the evergreen oak. All different types can be used. Limes and London plane work very well, and they're trained on the nursery as a tree, and then from about this height, around about 6 feet, they are then fanned out on a framework of these canes which are giving it support while it's young. So I would imagine that these, looking at the thickness of these stems, will probably be about 8 or 9 years old to get them to this stage. And then one of them would end here. That's the join, so you plant them so that they're touching to create this continuous hedge in the garden. Now in any garden situation you can use them either to divide two areas, or very often you see them where in built up areas you've got neighbours looking in, but you don't want to plant huge trees that are going to get to 30 or 40 feet, but you want something to give a little bit more privacy. So if you have a 6-foot high fence in the garden which you can install without planning permission, and then have one of these above it, it gives you another 4 or 5 feet of privacy above. So great for just enclosing the garden, and they're readily available to buy now from lots of companies. These have only been planted in this garden for a year. I know that because Jill and I planted them ourselves last year with the rest of the garden, and they're establishing really well now. And this is pretty much how they were when they came, but now they've got 1 year's growth on, they're looking a little bit shaggy. They're making lots of growth like this, and the idea is that what we want to do is to keep them compact. In time we can let them get a little bit wider. At the moment they're probably only about a foot wide, and I've seen some in some gardens where, you know, the actual hedge is probably at least a metre if not wider in a box section on top of the stilts. So they look really, really impressive. So what I'm doing at the moment, I'm using secateurs, is just cutting back these long shoots that it's made this season back to just 2 or 3 buds. So it's just really spur pruning it back like that, and what that does is it helps to keep the shape of the hedge, or keep that nice narrow shape. And you can do this anytime now really through to August, but I'm doing it now because I want it to bush out a little bit, and that will probably encourage a little bit more growth, and then maybe in October, November, when the leaves have fallen off, it can have a final trim. I'm using secateurs to do the pruning because I can get a nice clean cut, and with it being young I want to make sure we've got the shape. But once this is established and you get lots more growth, as you would on a established hedge at this time of the year, then you can use something like a lightweight hedge cutter. And this battery one is perfect, and I've been using that actually on the back just to try it out, and that would make the job so much quicker, and just 1 trim a year with that will keep it nice and in shape. The other thing you can do if you've got one of these in your garden and you're trying to get it to thicken up is to tie in a few shoots. At the moment I'm cutting them all off, but if we just look here, and this is a good example, I'm not sure if Jill can get in there, let me just position my ladder. You can probably see there we've got a bit of a hole like that, and we've got the framework of canes going there, and if I trim these back it will eventually fill out. But what you can do, just to give it a little bit of a helping hand, is with 1 or 2 of these long ones like this, bend a few down, like that. They're really pliable. So I'm just going to tie them in. Now I'm not going to tie them to the bamboo canes, because eventually, after a couple of years, when it's winter time and we can see the framework of this, I will cut all these plastic ties off and remove the bamboos, because by then all these branches will have set into their permanent shape. If we don't, it will basically strangle them. So you can just get one or two, and I'm just going to tie that to that branch there, just with a piece of string. It doesn't need to last for more than a year or so, because again, once this thickens out the branch, it will now stay into that shape, and then you could tie another one in to there. So it's just to fill these gaps, so that then the side shoots that grow from these and grow outwards will then eventually fill that gap, and it'll make a really, really thick hedge. So what I'm going to do now is get back up my ladder, do a bit more trimming to make it look really smart, like the first half that I've done. But if you do need something to block a view, or to just 2 or 3 of these in a garden in an L shape around a nice patio area, makes it look really attractive and just gives you that little bit of privacy. So when you're thinking of natural hedges, think pleached hedges as an option. And of course, don't forget, you've also got to take out these tall ones to keep a nice flat top to your pleached hedge. Well, there you go, the pleached hedge is all trimmed now, and it looks much neater with those long shoots cut off it. And remember, you can watch all the videos that we've done on Pots and Trowels on YouTube and on Facebook, and we'll be back again with you next week in the garden. So see you then. Bye.